Hi class, I enjoyed reading all of your introduction and problem statement papers. And what I have seen is that there are a lot of people who are doing more of a creative or informal writing style than an academic writing style. And I wanted to make it more clear about what the differences are between those. So looking at that then, the question is, what is academic writing? So academic writing is not a loose connection of anecdotal information. It's not you just telling me your experience in life. It's not also just the reporting of others' knowledge. What it is the creation of knowledge by using academic support to contribute to an academic discussion. That means that you need to be using your resources, your articles, to support your ideas. Not just telling me either what you've experienced or just telling me what other people have said only. You need to guide me through the argument based on what you have read in your research. Formal writing uses distant language, usually third person. You don't say I, you don't say we, you don't say you. You're supposed to try to say it in a dispassionate or unbiased way. It must be accurate. It must be a fact. So you can't say something like, all coaches know that it's better to treat your players with kindness than with anger. All coaches don't know that. No one could possibly know on this planet that all the coaches in the world know this knowledge. It's impossible. So that's imprecise. You need to be accurate and precise. You also have to have formal structure and vocabulary, and your writing tends to be tentative. It might be possible that some coaches understand that treating players with compassion is better than treating them with anger. That's tentative language instead of saying all coaches know, which is assertive language. So academic writing is formal, reasoned, impartial, logical, structured, and supported. That means no slang. It means it needs to be impersonal. You need to use your critical thinking. You give a balanced point of view, not just your opinion, but other points of view as well. Your ideas are logical and they flow from your topic sentence. Your topic sentence tends to be what you want to say about the idea, and then you support that with a research. You must have evidence and examples when you're doing your writing. And that's what the essence of academic writing is that it's supportive. The sources, your academic articles, strengthen your writing and give credibility to what you're saying. It shows that you've done research and that you understand what that research is saying about your topic. The process of academic writing is first you analyze the question, then you start brainstorming and thinking. You develop an outline and you make a plan, and then you do your research, and you bring your research in to support your ideas. If you want to write more informally and just get your ideas on paper, that's fine. But then every fact that you say, every assertion that you make has to have research backing it up. If it doesn't, you can't say it. That's the hardest thing about academic writing. So here's some tips. First, you want to make your writing condensed. You don't want to say a lot of words. The less words you can use to say the same meaning is better. So instead of saying like all three of us, you say the three. Instead of saying fewer than number, you say fewer. In all case, you say always. You know, the idea here is you cut down the words to be precise. Again, there are other ways of being wordy, and you've got to keep those in there, in spite of the fact that is easily replaced by although. In the event that, again, is too wordy, it's too informal, you could say if is the same thing. Personal opinion, all opinions are personal, so you just need the word opinion. The idea here is behind weasel words is you try to put in words that make the reader believe your argument, which are just opinions. So you say something like, it's perfectly obvious to anyone. Well, no, that's not true. That's rude to say, because what if it wasn't obvious to me and I'm reading your paper and now you're telling me everybody knows this, so why don't you know it? Um, and again, you can also put your opinion into the sentence. We can't go on using the Earth's resources at this rate and expect mankind to survive. This much is manifestly clear. You're basically saying, here's my opinion. It's clear, obviously. There's no other arguments to it. And the big thing here is never use the word we. There is no we. Who is the we? You can't use we, our society. This assumes an us-them divide. Who is the we? Who is the them? You must be careful with your word choice and make sure that you take it and make it as unbiased and third person as possible. Be sure to watch words like clearly, obviously, without a doubt. It's also good to avoid the word this because this is unclear. What are you saying when you say this? Spell it out. It's a good thing to understand the difference between an argument and an assertion. An argument is when you're presenting information and trying to establish support for what you are saying. So, for example, in this first example, whales are mammals. The premise number 2 is all whales suckle their young. The conclusion, therefore, whales suckle their young. Okay? That's supported by evidence. But just because an argument appears to be valid does not mean it's valid because, again, it's not always true. You have to be careful about that. So, all birds fly. The emo is a bird, therefore the emo flies. Emos don't actually fly. So you can see how you can make these mistakes. The important thing is to understand the difference between an argument and an assertion. An assertion is when you just say something with no proof, but it sounds like a fact. Between 1945 and 1980, the Australian Senate prevented the Labour Party from governing effectively by persistently failing to pass important legislation. This sounds like a fact. It's a fact. But there's no support for it. So as the reader of an academic paper, I immediately think this is your opinion. I don't see any facts here. So a supported statement is where you actually bring the research in to show that what you're saying is true. Same sentence, but now I'm adding the research, the citation at the end of the sentence. This isn't an APA citation, just so you know, but the point is you have a citation at the end of the sentence that supports what you're saying. An argument, however, is when you actually bring things together with support, but also in a way that convinces the reader that what you're saying is true. So you can see this is a much better construction here. Between 1945 and 1980, the Australian Senate prevented the Labour Party from governing effectively by persistently failing to pass important legislation. Okay, so that's the same sentence, but now you're backing it up. For instance, in 1974, the Senate blocked 80 pieces of important legislation. Citation. Brown's analysis of the Senate voting between 1980 showed the Senate blocked 184 labor bills, but only 5 non-labor bills. So you see, now you've provided me evidence. It's supported with citations. This was APA. It would be Smith and the year, 1997. This would be Brown's, parentheses, 1929 or whatever, parentheses, analysis of the Senate. That would be the APA way of doing that. Opinions are not arguments, though, and that is what you need to understand when you're writing academically. Opinions are statements of belief without supporting evidence. Pride and Prejudice is a great piece of literature. Coral reefs have degraded since Europeans introduced farming. Business has a responsibility only to its shareholders. These are all opinions. Opinions can start to form an argument, but you must back them up with support. If you don't have the support to back up the opinion, then it's just an opinion only, and that's not academic writing. That is informal writing. So the checklist for good arguments, there are reasons, you have support, there are no hidden assumptions, the central words are not ambiguous, slanted, or they don't incite prejudice. There aren't fallacies in reasoning. The important information, no important information or evidence is omitted. And the there's no false information, contradictory, or irrelevant information. The biggest thing that I saw in a lot of your papers is these grandiose statements. All coaches or all teachers or, you know, everyone in the industry knows or this, that, or kind of thing. You can't say those kind of things because it's impossible to prove. There's no way you can support that statement. You have to be a lot more specific before you could even begin to kind of support those kind of statements. One thing to avoid is hidden assumptions. These are your opinions, your assumptions, and you can't try to hide those in your work. You have to be clear in what you're saying. You need to make opinions clear that it is your opinion, but you also can't just say your opinion. You also need to be able to back that up with fact. And again, this is an example of the generalizations I was talking about before. Everyone agrees that cold calling does not produce results. This may be true, but you can only make that statement if it's supported with evidence. Now, you can say a similar thing, but it's not a generalization. You can say, according to the Mori report in 2000, cold calling does not produce results. Now you're specifically saying that this source said that cold calling does not produce results. You can see the difference here between saying everyone agrees, because obviously you don't know what everyone thinks, to saying this one person or this one report is saying this one thing. It's much more clear. It's not generalized. And here's a problem I saw in a few papers is wordiness. Again, trying to meet the word limits by adding different things to pad your work in is not good writing. It's not academic writing. You need to be able to pull in sources. That's how you pad your work to make sure you get your word count, is by pulling in multiple sources and telling me what those sources are saying. So you can see this sentence. You may find that there are a number of words contained in your writing that can be safely eliminated without any danger to your meaning whatsoever. That seems like a great sentence, but actually that's an informal way of stating it. It's a great sentence, makes sense, but it's informal. You can see that you can say the same thing by cutting out some unnecessary words. You may find words that can be eliminated without any danger to your meaning. That is exactly the same statement, but with a lot less words, and that's important for you. And finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about is putting words in the author's mouth. Don't misrepresent the author's ideas to the reader. You must be clear what the author is talking about and what they're not talking about. So don't say something from an author and then add your opinion to the end of it and make it seem like the author said the whole thing. Here's an example. The room was painted blue because the sky is blue. Rankin, 2015. So I'm asserting something and then using some other evidence and putting them together when I shouldn't be. Instead, you can say Rankin 2015 said the sky is blue. The room was painted blue to look like the sky. So you've given what the author said in one sentence, and then you give your analysis of what the author said, or you give your analysis of the issue in the second sentence, using the support from the first sentence. Okay, that's it for this little mini lecture. If you have any questions, please let me know. And read your annotations. I've included a link to how to read the annotations because it's really important to see what I'm saying to you. I'm often, because I have a lot of grading to do and because mid-quarter grades were due, I had to kind of be a little bit short in the annotations, but I hope you know that the whole idea behind this is to build up your understanding of academic writing. What's important to me is that you learn and not so much that your paper is perfect. So I try to grade very liberally, but I do hold you accountable to the grading. So again, if you have any questions, let me know.